Now something I wanted to address for quite a while is the avionics in this aircraft and how I'm using it in combination with the iPad in order to be able to fly IFR with this Mooney. We installed at the beginning of this year, we installed a GTN 650 Navcom and GPS unit from Garmin. It's the latest they have in this size. It's a touchscreen GPS and nav. It's coupled with this indicator here, which can display GPS and nav information.
171 Yankee, 178, climbing 160. Ryan 718 Yankee, Houston, Nachmittagsradar Contact, climb flight level 250. Climbing 250, inbound border, 718 Yankee.
And this radio here as well satisfying the 8.33 kilohertz radio mandate of the EASA. So the previous radio which was in here was 25 kilohertz spacing only, the same like this radio, and from 1st of January 2018, so at the beginning of next year, for basically all aircraft in the EASA, it is mandatory to have at least one, general aviation, to have at least one radio with 8.33 kilohertz channel spacing. So this unit satisfies my needs for IFR flying and satisfies the 8.33 kilohertz mandate. Then the transponder down here is a Garmin GTX 345. That's of course coupled with the GPS, and it's a ADS-B in and out transponder. We are approaching some higher level clouds here, so I switch on pitot heat just for safety. Okay, I want to give you this view for a second before I continue. Well, I can continue talking anyway. So ADS-B is not going to be mandatory anytime soon for general aviation here in Europe, but from the beginning of 2018 it is mandatory, well, in almost all airspaces, to have a Mode S transponder, which in my opinion the Mode S technology is inferior to ADS-B, but yeah, that's just how it is. But anyways, this transponder is capable of Mode S, so I can satisfy this mandate of the EASA. But in addition, it has ADS-B in and out. So not only am I visible to more people out there, because there are different technologies how you can get traffic information.
718 Yankee, climb flight level 280. 280, Yankee.
ADS-B, of course, the one with the most value to everyone. And so, in order to be visible to everyone, I decided to go this route and install this ADS-B out transponder, although it's not mandatory here in general aviation anyway. So, and the reason why I went with the 345 instead of the 335, the 335 is ADS-B out only, not in, and I wanted to have the ADS-B in capability. So we do not have weather transmission via ADS-B like the guys in the US, but I can still receive traffic, not from ground stations, because we do not have ground stations, neither for traffic nor for weather, but I can receive other traffic in the air. directly. And this information is forwarded from the transponder to the GTN. You can check out the traffic page. Yeah, there we see a traffic behind us descending. And yeah, that's quite a nice feature. Since ADS-B out is not mandatory here in Europe, I'm only able to see a very limited number of general aviation aircraft. But all the airliners have to have it. So I'm at least able to see all airline traffic. You can see that on the iPad here. And sometimes, if other GA aircraft are equipped with ADS-B out, then I can see them as well. I do not see the majority of the general aviation traffic here in Europe, which is a shame. I think ADS-B is the technology for the future. To receive all the other traffic with Mode S transponders, you would have to install other devices like TCAS stuff, but that's certainly way more expensive. Down there you can see the wind turbines sticking out of the cloud layers, which is quite nice. Okay, and since we already had a look at the iPad, the transponder here has Bluetooth capability, so I can pair the iPad via Bluetooth to the transponder and can forward all the information from the stack here to the Garmin Pilot app, which I have installed here on my iPad. So not only do I get the GPS data from the GTN, so I do not have to rely on the internal GPS receiver of the iPad. The iPad gets the GPS signal from the GTN, which is a way more precise source. And then the traffic from the transponder is transmitted as well, along with AHORS data. So when I switch to the synthetic vision page, the transponder has an AHORS sensor integrated, which is quite handy on the iPad, because if the synthetic vision on the iPad relies on the acceleration sensors of the iPad, the screen would give false indications if I start turning and playing with the iPad. And since the data is coming from the transponder, which is fixed to the aircraft, the information here is presented very accurately. Okay, funny discussion with ATC here. Anyways, back to this. We have terrain data. We have all the airway information. We have airport data. Basically anything you could wish on an app. I'm really satisfied with the Garmin Pilot app, especially in the last. Well, I'm using this app for exactly 1 year now, and they have updated the software quite a few times, and with big improvements. So 1 year ago, many
Food live.
Okay, small talk with ATC again. Where was I? Okay, the only thing I'm not so satisfied about is the AHORS data in the
65 Golf Kilo, climbing level
from the transponder. The transponder has to be calibrated with
Easy 65 Golf Kilo, good afternoon, radar contact climb flight level 280.
Installation angle in the aircraft and has to be precisely calibrated. This has been done by the Avionics shop, but still, if I fly in the traffic pattern with steep bank angles, the data here runs away pretty easily. So in level flight and shadow turns and IFR flying, this data here seems to be somewhat accurate, but in pattern traffic and steep turns and stuff like that, yeah, the data is not reliable. The indicators run away, and at some point then the app just says, okay, the data doesn't make sense, so I'm shutting down these functions here. So my initial plan was to have a somewhat reliable backup source of ARs in case of any failure with the primary instruments in IMC. But well, according to my experience, the ARs in the transponder.
261, contact now München 118-235, goodbye. 118-235, 261, goodbye.
Is not a reliable source.
Radar, good day, Ryanair 13 Kilo, climbing flight level 160 to Mike Alpha Golf.
Ryanair 13 Kilo, good afternoon, radar contact climb flight level 260.
Climb flight level 260, Ryanair 13 Kilo.
Now my GoPro session died, so I only have the cockpit camera up here. I will continue with this one. Another thing we installed is the audio panel. Initially I didn't plan on doing this. I wanted to keep the old one because the installation of this stuff was pretty expensive. But the old, very old audio panel had very poor audio quality, especially on the Pilot side. So I could barely understand ATC because it's a little louder in here than in other aircraft in this Mooney because of the steel cage and framing of the aircraft that transmit the vibrations from the engine into the cabin. But yeah, I do not have a headset with noise cancelling, and just the general performance of the old audio panel was so bad that I decided it was almost a kind of a safety factor to do something about that. And so with the installation of this audio panel, this is from Garmin, the GMA 350C. All the audio plugs were in the aircraft were exchanged with stereo and were insulated, so the audio quality is very good now. And another feature this audio panel has,
Ryanair 13 Kilo, proceed to Galma.
Besides all the
Galma, Ryanair 13 Kilo.
Basic stuff is, well, it has Bluetooth capability as well, so I can pair my phone or my iPad. Right now my iPad is connected via Bluetooth, so if the iPad app, for example, issues an obstacle or traffic alert, well, the transponder actually does give audible traffic alerts and visible traffic alerts on the GTN if it determines that there is a collision likely. I haven't had one yet. I was trying to get one, but since there are not many
EASA Golf Kilo, proceed to directed to Nürnberg. EASA Golf Kilo.
Since there are not many ADS-B targets in the lower airspace, I couldn't really challenge that. I tried it to approach, I think it was a Cessna with ADS-B out, and it passed me about 2 nautical miles to my left, same altitude and opposite direction, and I didn't get an audio warning. I went into the setup and configuration menu and tested the audio, so the audio of the transponder is working in general, but I did get a traffic alert so far, and apparently that's because there was no dangerous traffic so far. Okay, but anyways, the iPad...
Ryanair 13 Kilo, proceed direct Amosa.
Direct to Amosa, Ryanair 13 Kilo.
Ryanair 13 Kilo, contact München 118-235, goodbye.
118-235, goodbye, Ryanair 13 Kilo.
The iPad app...
65 Golf Kilo, contact Rheinräder 128-235, tschüss. 128-235, EASA 65 Golf Kilo, tschüss.
Garmin Pilot issues obstacle and terrain warnings, and they are then via Bluetooth transmitted to the audio panel, and I can hear them.
Caution, obstacle.
Additionally, I can pair my mobile phone for the audio, and I had to figure this out by trial and error. You can only pair one audio source at a time, so I can either do it with the iPad or with the iPhone, or any other device for that matter. But yeah, I can also pair the mobile phone and do voice calls, or play music, or yeah, play whatever audio via the audio panel, and then to the headphones. And then of course with the I can select which audio source goes to me, the pilot, the passengers. I can isolate the crew from the passengers. There is a mute function which can mute only the passengers, or additionally the co-pilot. If there is some radio transmission coming from outside. So if someone in the aircraft is talking and this function is enabled, then it cuts down the volume on, well, the person who is talking, so that the crew can listen to the radio call from the outside. But I can do...
Radar, hello, Delta Fox, Echo Fox, Yankee, level 220, direct Osnabrück.
Delta Fox, Echo Fox, Yankee, good day, radar contact.
What I can do by holding the passenger button.
Passenger mute enabled.
That's the function, so it tells me this feature is enabled, so if there were passengers in the back and the feature is enabled, then they will get shut off when a radio call comes from outside. I can assign the co-pilot as passenger, so if there is no actual certified pilot in the right seat, I can assign this audio position as passenger. Then he is treated with the same rules as the passengers. That's done by holding the co-pilot button.
Co-pilot as passenger.
And then there's only passengers remaining.
Co-pilot as crew.
Long button push enables the co-pilot again. Another neat feature is when you are flying with actually two, or at least, well, not necessarily two pilots, but someone in the right seat who is able to do radio work. You can enter split comm mode by pushing both buttons here. No, by pushing both buttons over here. And now I can talk and listen on radio number 1, and the co-pilot can listen and talk on radio number 2. And we are not interfering each other, and I'm not hearing what he's talking on his radio or receiving on his radio, and so we could work on two separate frequencies here. And yeah, just to finish that, the last function I want to show is 3D audio. So since stereo jacks are installed here, I can enable the 3D audio feature, which allows, if both radios are active, that one radio is spatially shifted to my left ear, and the second radio is spatially shifted to my right ear, so that when I'm listening and talking to ATC on the first comm and listening to ADIS, for example, on the second comm, they spatially come from different directions to my ears, and that makes it easier to distinguish the different sources.
Thank you, my friend.
I have to note this feature. This feature only works if you have stereo audio ports and stereo headsets. My headset here is mono, so doesn't make a difference. But the feature is enabled by holding down the pilot button.
Standard audio.
Standard audio is the normal, and then 3D audio.
3D audio left. 3D audio right.
Yeah, left and right is just to test the side you hear. No, I don't think I go into much more detail with the iPad and the software here. I've shown all the features that are interesting in regards to the Avionics installed here. Just a quick information here with the Pilot Küritz, which is just a beam Berlin in Germany, and here in the Berlin airspace you can see all the ADS-B traffic I'm receiving. That's airline traffic I'm receiving on ADS-B. There's someone else here. This feature is set to, I think, plus or minus 2,500 feet of my current altitude. If I switch that to unlimited, well, basically the whole map is cluttered because I can see all the aircraft from ground until unlimited, and I would see all the airline traffic. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to show on the iPad. Let's continue with the Avionics tour. The S-Tech 30 Autopilot was installed in this aircraft already. It's coupled to the GTN 650, so I can fly heading mode with a heading bug here, or I can fly follow a GPS or a VOR or any other nav source, ILS or something. The only thing this combination doesn't do is GPSS steering. So when there are a few GPS waypoints and there is too big of an angle between two legs, then the autopilot cannot follow. It will basically overshoot over the waypoint and lose the signal to the airway. So can only do by itself. It can only do very shallow turns, because with a nav and GPS signal, I think the turn rate is limited to 10 or 15% of a standard rate turn. So if the GPS, for example, in a holding setup with GPS, you have to do standard rate turns, right? And you cannot do this fully coupled with this autopilot, because the autopilot cannot follow the GPS with a standard rate turn, only with about 10% of a standard rate turn. So you will always overshoot. What I do is just before reaching a waypoint, I switch over to heading mode, set the new heading, and the autopilot just follows the heading back with a standard rate turn. And when I'm on the new leg, I just switch back to nav. There is a module for that, for the S-Tech, a GPSS module which can translate the data into a heading mode signal. So it's basically, this module is mimicking the heading indicator, and that's basically a digital heading indicator, which is or a digital heading bug, which is basically following the instructions of the GPS, feeding that as heading signal to the autopilot. But I think it's $2,000 or $3,000 plus installation, so that's not worth it for me. I may at some point, for sure not now, but I may at some point replace the heading indicator down here with the Garmin G5 instrument. Right now there is no EASA STC for the heading HSI. There is only a EASA STC for the attitude indicator as certified as primary. So I'm kind of waiting for the STC. So it's a digital, it's a display with built-in AHRS, no gyros. It has a 4-hour battery in the back, so if the electrical system fails, I still have will have about 5 hours of attitude information. It can be combined with a magnetometer, so that the heading indicator is basically slaved and always has the correct information. And I can use it as with a heading dock, and it can also display on the display, function as HSI and display nav and GPS information. So basically the same information from here on the HSI. And it supports GPSS steering, so it can with another module connect to the Autopilot and basically do the same functionality like the Aztec module, all in one device. And the whole setup is just shy of $3,000 of hardware, right about the same price as for the GPSS module for the Aztec alone. Right now the setup is just fine. This is just a nice to have. I mean, yeah, if one of these instruments would fail at some point, I might just, instead of dealing with repairing it, just go for the gyroless version. But yeah, right now I don't have the need, and as I said, the EASA STC is not there yet, so I couldn't install it anyways. And the last item we recently did this summer is this EDM-830. It's a digital engine monitor from JP Instruments, US company. This combines most of the primary engine data. It is only certified secondary, so I could not throw out all the steam gauges. But that wasn't the important point for me. The point why I went this route is to have reliable EGT and cylinder head temperatures for flying lean of peak. Before that there was an analog EGT gauge, 4-cylinder EGT gauge with 4 needles installed, and with this you cannot do lean of peak flying because you cannot observe all the 4 needles at the same time and observe which one is peaking first at which temperature and which is peaking last and whatnot. So this EDM is very nice for that purpose, and it backups most of the instruments here, as I said. Plus it has a very precise fuel flow indicator, more precise than this thing. And so I get manifold pressure, I get RPM, I have a temperature sensor, and with that and with the fuel flow it calculates the percentage of horsepower of the engine. Then I have oil temperature, oil pressure, fuel flow, the used fuel, the remaining fuel, outside air temperature, and the endurance. I'm in the air for 50 minutes and I still have almost 5.5 hours remaining. And then of course the most important for me is cylinder head temperatures, because the analog gauge down here is only 1, and it was always showing very low temperature. You can see that the needle is barely touching the lower green arc, and so I wasn't trusting this instrument at all. And I was curious about what the 4 EDM probes would show, and they are actually showing roughly the same temperature, of course with much better resolution. But apparently, in cruise right now, my cylinder head temperatures are between 270 and 290 degrees Fahrenheit maybe. So most other aircrafts have temperatures about 100 degrees above that, in the area of 350, 370, 380, sometimes even in the lower 400s in climb. and I'm far away from that, and that's why I was questioning the primary cylinder head temperature in the first place. But the point is, my engine is completely covered in a housing, which is apparently much more efficient cooling-wise than normal baffling. And so, yeah, the very good encapsulation and aerodynamic cooling of the engine in this particular installation is the reason why I'm showing so low temperatures. But that gives lots of room to play with power settings. As I said, EGTs and especially the lean of peak flying with the lean find mode is very handy. And so at this power setting, usually I would burn, according to the POH, 9.4 gallons, and I'm burning 7.8, so I'm burning 1.6 gallons per hour less. Okay, I do lose a few knots of true airspeed, but still 1.6 gallons is huge. Clean out the engine. Here with the EDM I have the lean find option. Now I just lean the mixture. Exhaust gas temperatures rise accordingly. Fuel flow decreases. And at some point when peak EGT is reached, the EDM will flip the display to indicate the delta temperature from peak for each cylinder. There we go. We went through peak and now we are on the lean side of peak. And anything in between peak and about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, lean of peak, is alright. Now you have a fuel flow of 7.5 gallons per hour. Yeah, and so this basically concludes my tour in the cockpit and all the new features in combination with the iPad app. As I said, I'm very satisfied. I use the Garmin Pilot app for IFR and VFR flying, and it is very handy with charts overlay, approach chart overlay on the map and stuff like that. Terrain, synthetic vision, logbook functionality. Well, down here that's actually a nice picture. I'm flying from northern Germany. Let me show this to you guys. Flying from northern Germany, a beam Berlin, down south to the Munich area. Munich is around about here, and I'm flying to Augsburg. And the red indication here in the terrain display, this is are the Alps,
50 climbing 100
German, Austrian and Swiss Alps.
Tango Fox Charlie, hello, identified, for higher please call radar 133 230. 123 230, Delta Tango Fox Charlie.